Alright, so to start off, I got about 60 sheds lined out right here. Got a couple good match sets here, deadhead or two. I just sawed the antlers off of. Third match set being this buck right here. It's nice 3x4. Just a real solid buck. Can't complain about matching him up. He's a nice little brown set. But we're gonna go through my top 5 now. Starters, we're gonna start off with this big 3-point brown. Just so you know, top 5 is going off as more or less size for now. Not necessarily my favorites of deer sheds. Obviously, elk sheds would take top 5 all day for size, but that's only if we were putting everything together. This is just out of deer sheds. I got this nice chocolatey brown 3-point. He doesn't score too great, but he's just a buck that, yeah, he's just more or less just a buck that I like. And he's every bit as big as any of the other ones I have laying over here in this pile. So that's number 5. Number 4 is this big chalk right here, this big chalky 3-point. Again, he wouldn't have scored too well just because he's pretty weak up here on the front, but he's solid buck. Nice little eye guard coming up, about an inch or so long. Just a real solid buck, solid G2. And his G1 wraps around the front like that. If his other side would have done so, there wouldn't have been much space here between the G1s. And he's just a buck I've come to like a lot. I found that this year, along with these ones and this elk shed and that one up there, along with several others on one of my other videos. So if you haven't done so, go check it out. Now we got number 3 at this big 4-point here. I found this one again this year. This year has been pretty solid. I found about 40 sheds this year. But this 4-point here, just real solid again. Nice tall G2. Not great on the forks, but he has some weight behind him. He's just a sweet buck. Number 2 is this buck right here. This is just shy of an 80-inch shed. Got really solid forks here. Good G1, great G2. Pretty decent 1.5 inches or so long eye guard. He's just a really nice buck that I've come to love. Got a cool little hole back here on the side of his antler. Just makes him unique, and I love him. Now, number 1 is this tank. He scores only an inch or two bigger than that 4-point I just showed you, but the character down here by his base, I just love. He's got that good J hook right here. You can hang him on your finger. It's just sweet. Really nice eye guard, about a 3-inch long eye guard there. Little kicker of an eye guard right here. He's just a real nice buck, real nice dark chocolatey 3-point. I love him. Alright, now I've gone through kind of my top 5 for deer sheds. I'm going to go through some of my more unique sheds, and then we'll get into how to tell a hard white and a hard white from a brown, and get into the nitty-gritty of that detail. So let's start off. I'm going to come up here to my brown pile. This is my brown pile, hard whites here, chalks here. We're going to grab this shed right here, this one. These are my 2 most unique deer sheds that I personally own. Get right here for kind of close-up. You can see what's going on. First glimpse, he might look decently normal. Almost kind of like that big 3-point chalk I showed you earlier out of top 5. With that small, I think that'd be the G3. But you can kind of see, bring him up closer for you. The base here, kind of flattened out, missing kind of what would be the burr on the antler here. He's missing the back end of it here. Just the way he would have sat on his head was kind of cool. I have a picture of this buck in person, which we'll show right here. So there's this 3-point side, and it's kind of almost flattened out and really smooth and kind of weird. So as far as uniqueness, this is one of my best unique sheds. Now we're going to get into this one. First glimpse, if you look at him right here, looks like normal 3, but then you uncover what the burr is, and you can see it's just kicked back. That isn't normal. My guess is that's a broken pedicle on this deer that caused that. But you can see just completely wonky, not right in the slightest. And it's just a unique shed. As far as uniqueness goes, this is probably #1 for me. So now let's go ahead and get into what makes a chalk, a hard white, and a brown, To start off, we're going to start with this 4-point here. You can see a bunch of cracks through them, and that would be considered a chalk. So what makes a chalk is, in fact, those cracks that come through. As a shed ages, this shed I'd assume be 3 or 4 years old by where I found it. They begin to age, and as they age, they dry out, causing these cracks that you can see. On the back, they're not as bad where he was laying like this when I found him. But this side that was pelted by the sun and weather just got completely hammered and got to be dried out and started cracking. So that's what makes a chalk is those cracks and the dryness. When some of them gets bad enough, they fall apart in your hand. They get really flaky because of how dried out they are. Now here's a hard white. This is one of my better antlers, especially hard white wise. It has that really tall high guard. Found this one while pheasant hunting, which is pretty sweet. But this shed, you can see, doesn't really have hardly any cracks at all. Not nearly as bad as a chalk would. It almost gleams like a brown would with the color because it's not so dried out. But the sun, it bleached it into this white color that you can see. On the back, you can almost see the brownish that it used to be, where it was laying down. But on this side, that was uncovered by the sun. You can just see it's white. You can kind of start seeing a few hairline cracks in it. Very, very subtle. But that's what makes a hard white is that it's just bleached by the sun. It's about a year old shed is all. Sometimes they can get 2 years and not have hardly any cracks. And still be considered a hard white by an antler buyer. But now we're going to go into a brown. So right here you got a nice little chocolatey brown. This is one of my more favorite sheds because he's pretty small, but he's really dense, pretty heavy. You can see here he's kind of heavy for what he is. Just not a very big buck, but has great potential. Carries that mass all the way up. But what makes this brown a brown is simply the color. All brown means is, yes, the color. It's obviously had that brown color to it, but it's a this year shed. This year shed's going to be brown right as it falls off a deer's head. It's still that color, and it holds that color for a few months. Some longer than others. It just depends on how hot it is in that area and how much weather it sees. So that would be how you tell those three apart. And earlier I mentioned antler buyers. Some of you that don't know, antler buyers, they are people that purchase antler. You can go sell them. That's not why I shed hunt. I shed hunt for the thrill of it, but some people do sell their sheds. I do it every once in a while whenever I need a little bit of pocket cash. But what they do, they buy them and some make furniture and like chandeliers and whatnot, and others do it for jewelry or knife handles. Just some of the uses that they have. I just do it for the collection and the thrill of doing it. There's nothing like it whenever I find a nice deer shed or even elk sheds, which I haven't found very many of, but the thrill of it is there and I love it. So that's my shed collection here. Like I said earlier, got about 60 to get a bit of match sets, and you know, I really appreciate you guys watching, and make sure to go down below, hit subscribe, and hit that like button, and let me know if you like this kind of video, and if you do, make a suggestion on what video you'd like to see next. See you guys next time. Thanks for watching.